can't be a mom. It's too hard. I need you.
Hey guys, I'm Sarah Beth and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my postpartum experience. If you have been following me for a while, then you were following me when I got pregnant and throughout my pregnancy, and then I gave birth, and I just uploaded my birth story a couple weeks ago. So today I want to tell you all about the postpartum experience. Immediately, I had a great postpartum recovery. I didn't tear. I think that's probably because I pushed for 2 hours. It took a really long time to get Roman out, so it took me some time to stretch out, I guess you'd say. And I still had a little bit of a belly. Everyone does. Actually, I had quite a bit of a belly. I was expecting it. I was trying to make sure my husband was expecting it, but you don't really know what to expect when it comes to birth, labor, postpartum, motherhood. Since I gave birth at a birthing center, we were there for about 5 hours before we went home. While we were there, I took a shower, I took a nice, warm, relaxing bath while my husband got some time with the baby to bond and hang out skin to skin. And then after about 5 hours, they let us go home. It was so weird. We were just like antsy, ready to go. Let's go. So we put a diaper on our baby, we dressed him up. He was so little. And then we put him in the car seat and drove home. This was at like 6 in the morning. We were so tired because we hadn't slept for almost 37 hours at that point, something like that. I thought that Roman would sleep in the rock and play while we slept in the bed, and that, no, not right away, not when he was so tiny. So instead, I ended up sleeping on the bed with Roman with like a bunch of space between us because I was so freaked out about bed sharing, and my husband slept on the ground off the edge of the bed that was open. So it's a queen size bed. I'm on one side, Roman's in the middle. There's a whole lot of space, and then my husband on the ground because we were so freaked out. But it ended up being totally okay. We got help. Within the first 2 days, I had my in-laws here. They flew in from Minnesota. They cleaned, they did laundry, they went grocery shopping, they made dinner, made coffee, everything. It was so much help. And originally I thought that my husband would do all this stuff, but once we were actually in it, I realized that we were both so exhausted. That man hadn't slept for 37 hours either. And yes, he didn't actually physically push a baby out of himself, so he might not have been as sore as me, but he was tired. And we both really appreciated the help. I had my doula, and she showed up a few days postpartum to help me with my pump. She showed us how to swaddle. She taught us how to use the boba wrap for carrying the baby, which was, oh my gosh, a lifesaver. Definitely get yourself a doula who has postpartum doula experience, or at least a doula who will show up afterwards to check on you, because that to me felt really good, knowing that there was somebody who was very experienced, who cared about me, who went through that experience with me, and she was helping me process it as well, because it was so big and such a crazy experience that it helped me to be able to talk it out and be like, oh my gosh, and then this happened, and process out loud with her, who was also there. My husband was home for 2 weeks, something that we weren't expecting as well, but he owns his own business, so he's able to take that time, and that was really helpful too. Although at the end of 2 weeks, I think I was ready for us to find our own groove again, but those 2 weeks when sleep was just like, sleep when you can sleep kind of thing, and not sleeping at night and like trying to scrape by for food, I really appreciated having him home. And then I had a meal train. So my friend Robin set up this meal train that was really nice to have my friends stop by and bring food. And these were all friends that have had babies before, so they knew what I was going through, and I knew that I wasn't gonna get judged when they show up and I have like bags down to here. They were just so loving and warm and kind, and they brought food. Good friends. Now for my recovery. I didn't have a problem with incontinence afterwards, but I felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to my pelvic floor. It was very sore, intense. Just sitting down. Whew. I had no core. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't believe it. It makes sense, but the fact that I couldn't actually sit up to get out of bed was like, wow, I'm starting from ground zero here. So I continued with rolling over to get out of bed, and I knew that after those 5 or 6 weeks, I was definitely gonna have to work on my core. Something else that was interesting to me was my upper body was so sore after like 2 days. Even though my baby was only like 7 pounds, holding him was a new thing for both me and my husband. My husband's super athletic. So I was like, hey, are your biceps sore and your triceps and like your back? And we're both like comparing like, yeah, super sore just from carrying this baby around. Something that we're not used to doing all the time. So I will definitely add that into my postpartum series, a lot of upper body openers, because it's easy to start doing this when you're carrying a baby or when you're trying to breastfeed or bottle feed. Just everything starts to slump over and get really tense. I lived on ice packs and Depends underwear. Everyone wears those like huge mesh panties in postpartum, but I thought maybe Depends would be easier to get around in, and at least in my experience, that was definitely true. Let's talk about breastfeeding. Breastfeeding was hard. I did get him to latch in the first hour after giving birth, but it wasn't like the best latch. It definitely hurt. That was something I was kind of expecting, that it's gonna hurt, because you're not used to having your nipples like tugged and sucked on and like that wet and dry, and like they get chapped. And it took me actually 5 to 6 weeks for breastfeeding to be something that would be okay. And during that time, I got so engorged when my milk came in around day 4. My doula showed up and was like, we need to get that milk out, because it was. So I used the pump to get the milk out, something that I was kind of scared to do because I'd only heard that you shouldn't use the pump in those first 6 weeks. But in my case, I was making so much milk that kind of needed to get the milk out, and I wasn't doing it properly, apparently, because I ended up getting mastitis about 2 weeks in to the whole postpartum thing. It wasn't so much like the pain red that you expect for mastitis. It was more that I started feeling super fluish. I was feeling amazing up until about 2 weeks, and I felt like absolute I felt like a truck had hit me, and I was getting a fever. I was getting the shakes.
Can't be a mom, it's too hard. I need you.
It's okay. He's been in these videos before. He knows what he's doing. The mastitis got dealt with, thank goodness. I definitely had a lot of clogged ducts. I started taking like sunflower lecithin, I think is what you call it, to help lubricate the ducts, and that I guess worked. I was pumping when I was super engorged. I was using hot and ice at different times. I understand why it doesn't work out for some people, because I was getting there where I was not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel anymore. And I was wondering, is this how it's going to be all the time? Is it ever going to be easy to feed my child? Spoiler alert, it is. Breastfeeding now doesn't hurt in the slightest bit. It's actually easy. I can walk around while I do it. I mean, in the beginning was like every single prop you could imagine, the perfect position, the perfect latch. But I really just needed to learn how to get out of my own way. And once I learned how to do laid back breastfeeding, everything changed, because I allowed him to latch himself versus me trying to use every technique in the book to get the perfect latch. I laid back, I relaxed, I put him on me belly to belly, and he just pecked around and then latched on, and I was like, this doesn't hurt. At least in the beginning, it was like, this doesn't hurt nearly as bad as it normally does. Once my nipples healed, I was like, this doesn't hurt. This is doable. And it helped that I had my doula supporting me. I went to breastfeeding support groups. I had a lactation consultant that I actually called in. She came into the home. She checked out his latch, told me that he did have a posterior tongue tie, but it was something that he could possibly grow out of. I think he did grow out of it. All of those things were definitely worth it in order for me to have the breastfeeding experience that I have now. Let's talk about weight loss, because that was not what I was expecting it to be either. I was expecting to shed the weight. I eat well, I am healthy, I was fit throughout my pregnancy. I ended up gaining about 37 pounds in the pregnancy, and then within those first 2 weeks I dropped 17 pounds. But a lot of that was baby, fluid, placenta, organs were shrinking. I mean, that was like an expected weight loss, 17 pounds right away. Cool. At 6 weeks, I got to check my weight again, and I gained 4 pounds. I didn't lose anything more. I was like really kind of surprised. Breastfeeding made my appetite like really, really intense. So I was eating all the time. Even though I was eating really healthy, I was eating all the time. I would wake up in the middle of the night and eat. Any chance I could eat, I would eat. I finally tracked one day of eating and I realized that I was eating like 4,000 calories a day. My appetite eventually regulated and I was able to replace some of the foods that I was eating, like a lot of dried fruits and nuts, which were easy to grab, with like baby carrots, which would help fill me up, but hopefully I wouldn't be eating so many calories. And I don't normally count calories, by the way, only when I'm concerned about what I'm eating and like if I need to regulate, like in that instance. Around 6 weeks, I started working out. I started with a bunch of Pilates for core, just to make sure that I had a strong core to start with. I got checked for diastasis recti, and I did not have a big enough gap to be worried about. Probably around 7 or 8 weeks, I started BBG, actually the pre-BBG program. That's Kayla Itzina's Bikini Body Guide. And I couldn't even do a push-up on my knees. Like my arms were so weak, my core was so weak. But I did what I could to start and I slowly gained strength over time and I slowly lost weight over time. Slowly though, because I'm not trying to shed all my weight at once because I need weight for my milk production. As I mentioned, I started working out when I got the go-ahead around 5 or 6 weeks. And I did the pre-BBG program. I'm doing the BBG one right now. That's a 12-week bikini body guide, and it's perfect right now for me. I'm still modifying quite a bit because I want to make sure that I'm not going to injure myself, and I really did start from zero when it came to core strength. I'm also doing a lot of yoga, and now I'm actually able to go to yoga classes because I just registered him for the child center at my gym. Because I'm able to get him in that child center, I can go to a yoga class and then I can shower and take my time, and oh, that feels so good. I was trying to do yoga at home and I was trying to work out at home too, and in the beginning it was doable. But a lot of the times he would wake up and say, no, Mama, you should play with me, or I want attention. And I wouldn't continue my workout, or I would try to do it with him. And it was just a pain in the butt. So it's nice to have a little bit of childcare at the gym in order for me to get what I need to get done and take some time to myself. Which kind of ties into anxiety. It got really overwhelming around 12 weeks postpartum. And I started reaching out for help after 2 weeks of realizing that I'm feeling overwhelmed a lot. It was kind of like a roller coaster. One day I would feel anxious and overwhelmed, and the next day I would feel super productive and like manic. And then the next day I would feel super depressed and I wouldn't get anything done. And the next day I would feel pretty good, normal. The next day I'd be overwhelmed again. And because it was like that, like a roller coaster of emotions, I was having a hard time even realizing what was happening. I was almost denying all of the negative days. And whenever I'd feel good, I'd be like, see, I feel great. Nothing's wrong with me. We're okay. But that wasn't really the case. Broad picture, big picture, I wasn't doing so hot. So I ended up calling my doula, talking to her. She got me on some supplements like vitamin D, probiotics, and omega-3s. She suggested this Barleans, which is like ultra potency, and it tastes really good. And I thought, although it was a little bit spendy, I'll do anything to get out of this funk. So it could be just temporary that I take all these supplements for my mood, and I'll do it. I also started seeing a therapist for postpartum anxiety. I actually took the Edinburgh test and I was on the spectrum for postpartum depression. Postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. And now I'm using the best tools that I can to manage, like yoga, meditation, supplements, therapy, asking for help. All of these things have helped with the anxiety a lot. The therapy, by the way, was one of the things that I put off for the longest time, like 6 weeks, that I was like, yeah, I know that would help, but, and I'd come up with whatever excuse could fill in the blank right there. Finally, one week I was like, no, I'm just gonna call and book and go in as soon as possible. And it was so helpful, and it's been helpful since then. I mean, the therapist is giving me tools to manage my expectations, to have acceptance. He's even told me point blank that my homework is to be selfish about self-care. And I've made a lot of changes since starting therapy, thanks to this hour that I get to talk it out and have somebody kind of reflect back on me ways that I can help myself. Something else that helped me, it's called Essence, like Mother's Essence. This is my placenta, actually. I got placenta pills and I took them and I didn't really think much of it because I felt fantastic anyway in the beginning, and I was supposed to take those within the first 10 days. I felt so good before I even started taking them, and I felt just as good when I was taking them. So I was like, well, I don't know if that did anything. But I think that the Essence did. It tastes like vodka, like nothing. Ulcerative colitis and postpartum could not have been better. I have not experienced anything negative in the ulcerative colitis range. I take a lot of probiotics. I have chia seed every day. I have kefir every day. I think that helps a lot, and staying hydrated helps a ton as well. So I feel lucky and grateful that I didn't have to deal with anything ulcerative colitis wise. So I want to finish up this postpartum experience video with self-care, because that to me was the biggest takeaway of my postpartum experience, was when I started making self-care very important in my life. Because in order for me to be able to take care of him and to be there for my family, I need to be able to take care of myself. The first time I went and got my nails done after I had him it was probably a couple weeks after I had him, and it was glorious. I gave David a bottle of my pumped milk and said, if he's hungry, feed him. I'm just gonna be down the street. You can text me if you need anything. And I was a little bit anxious about like leaving my baby, but I came back like a renewed woman. I felt so good about myself. My toes looked cute, my fingers looked cute. And I realized at that moment, I need to do this more often. I need to take care of myself. I need to take the time to put on just a little bit of makeup and wear clothes that make me feel good. They don't have to be fancy, because a girl needs to be comfortable. But thank goodness for yoga clothes, because they're cute now, and you can wear yoga clothes and feel cute and feel good and be comfortable. None of my clothes fit me afterwards, and I didn't want to wear my maternity clothes. So I finally decided, since I wasn't losing the weight as fast as I thought I would, I'm gonna give my body some grace. My body did something amazing, and I deserve to have, even if it's a very small wardrobe, a new wardrobe. Something that fits me, something that I can breastfeed in and feel good about myself. I still am about 12 pounds more than my pre-pregnancy weight, but I would gladly stay there and keep the body for what it is, because I think that my body did an amazing thing and I feel like a woman, and as long as I can make milk for my baby, then I'll keep this weight. That's fine. Even if I never go back down my pre-pregnancy weight, that's fine. I'm a different person now. I have a new life. Those were some things that I experienced in the postpartum. Getting help was so helpful. The recovery was pretty good aside from mastitis. Breastfeeding was difficult, but there is that light at the end of the tunnel. The weight loss was a lot slower than I expected it to be, but at the same time, I'm figuring that slow weight loss is sustainable weight loss. I am experiencing postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, but I'm doing a lot of different things to help manage that and hopefully get out of it completely. And then self-care to me was the biggest takeaway from the postpartum experience. Once I allowed myself to take care of myself, I was able to better take care of my family and my son, and it's been sunny skies since. Leave a comment down below with your best tip for postpartum. I'm sure something comes to mind. Leave it down below. We can get like a discussion going. Maybe you'll learn something from somebody else. Like this video if you found it helpful, and I will see you guys next time. Say bye. You guys, whoa, I forgot to even show you. Check out this super cute onesie. Maxine from Booty Box sent this to me. Well, sent it to Roman actually. And it fits him now. Look how cute it is. It says Namaste. It's got Ganesh on it.